Hello, this is Pastor Terry Goodman, and I want to welcome you to the Wesleyan Connection. This podcast is primarily for the clergy and laity of the Holston-Annual-Conference. Join with me now as I take a look around the Connection and share some of the things happening in the churches of our annual conference. This is Pastor Terry Goodman, and this is episode 8 of Conversations at Annual Conference. Actually, there's not going to be any conversations in this particular episode, but I'm going to close out the series that I've been doing at Annual Conference with this final episode. Just going to sort of reflect. I'm going to think about some of the things along the way that I've seen and things that I've heard. Annual Conference is more than just about the sessions. You know, I've talked with some very passionate people that have been expressing Jesus Christ to the world through the ministries of their local churches, and that's what you will find in the previous 7 episodes of this series. I hope you'll take a time to listen to them. I hope that you'll find something in there that will inspire you to do something in your local church, maybe similar to what these people are doing in theirs. You see, God is a creative God. We are not hampered by God's inability to be creative. We are hampered by our inability to see the creativeness of the God that has brought us into existence. You know, in the beginning God said, in the beginning God did. God created the heavens and the earth, and if God can create the heavens and the earth, He can create in us a new life. He can create in us a new sense of ministry and mission, wherein we can go forth into our communities and share God's love in ways that we just can't imagine. And so when I look back at this week, I have heard stories. I have heard people talk about the things that they are passionate about. Of course, we've done all the things that we do in terms of budgets and reports and pensions and equitable salaries, and we've done those kinds of things. We've done the petitions. We've heard all the emotion that sort of rotates around those kinds of things that happen on the floor of the annual conference. But that's why we're here. That's why we're here to discuss and to talk and to let the Holy Spirit move in our midst as we gather for this time of holy conferencing to understand what God might be calling us, maybe what God is pushing us to do. Sometimes God gets behind us and just sort of shoves us, I think, because we are too slow, or we refuse to get out of the way, or we think that our agenda is more important than what God's agenda is. As we leave this annual conference, I hope that we leave understanding that we have been doing God work, that we've been doing the things that God would have us to do. We can't go back to our local churches and just assume that God is going to bless us if we don't do what God has put us here to do. So that's my reflections. That's where I've come from this week at Annual Conference. I want to share with you what the future of the podcast has in store. We're going to be going back to a traditional Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. format, in which I will release a new podcast each Wednesday morning. The good news for you is that I have managed at Annual Conference to gather quite a bit of material, so to speak, and I'm going to be sharing with you over the next few weeks some of the following things. Think of this as the coming features part of the podcast. I have an interview with Bishop David Graves, one of our own, as he talks about ministry he is having. I'm going to hope, and I can't guarantee this is going to happen, that I'll get an interview with Bishop Swanson this morning, since he's going to be back in town for just a brief while. I may not be able to get that interview, but we're also going to have one more conversation with a DS, Kim Goddard from up in the Wytheville district, shared with me. I spoke with Fred and Libby Deering and one of their colleagues, Libby Hayes, about the ministry that they are doing in Sudan and Uganda. I had an opportunity to speak with Jack Ewing, the Executive Director of Lake Junaluska. I think you'll like to hear what he has to say. Randy Pasqua has been on my list to talk to for quite a few months, and I happened to catch him at just the right time. And so we talk about his ministry in camping and leisure ministries. I spoke with a friend, Reed Shell. Just sort of sat down and we just started talking, and I began asking him some questions. Spoke with the Reverend Rick Wright. You may know Rick. He is a conference-approved evangelist, and I talked with him about what that involves. Steve Martin, not the comedian, but the Steve Martin from our annual conference, who now works for the National Council of Churches. Had a good interview with him talking about the ministry that he provides to and through the National Council of Churches. Also had a chance to speak with Chaplain Ryan Davenport about what it's like to be a chaplain in the United States Army. Those are some of the interviews that I know that I'm going to be posting in the weeks ahead. In addition to the interviews, I recorded of things happening on Monday at annual conference. I don't know what I'm going to do with those. I may post them in their entirety. I may post them in less than entirety, bits and clips, so to speak. For instance, I did Bishop Taylor's State of the Church address. For those of you at annual conference, that may not be something you'd want to listen to again, but for those folks that did not have a chance to attend annual conference, it might be important to hear her words. Also, I recorded the laity report to annual conference. The Denman Evangelism Awards, that one's sort of close to my heart since my son David received that award a few years back. I love to hear those stories, and I'm probably going to be sharing those stories of those that received the Denman Award. Roger Redding and the Holston Conference Foundation, he too has some stories about how men and women have made a legacy that continues on even after their death, and those are always great stories to hear. And I've got Tom Hancock's mission report to the annual conference, with the exception of the Abingdon district, which I didn't get the recorder going fast enough. That's what the future holds. That's probably enough to get me through the next 3 months or so. And I'm on the lookout for other things. I can't wait until 3 months are over and then say, oh, what am I going to do? So if there's something happening, get in touch with me. Give me a call or send me an email to pastorterrygoodman@gmail.com and say, let me talk with you about what our church is doing in the community. I'm more than eager, and I think I've found a way to record via Skype the audio telephone conversation so that I can get the audio without having to come to you. We can do it via the internet. And so I'm looking for opportunities to continue to expand this Wesleyan Connection podcast, and I hope that you will help me to do that. You can do it by telling your friends. Let them know that this podcast is available. I'm up to about 68, 69 episodes now, so there's quite a few under the belt, and there's quite a few there that they could go back and listen to, and I anticipate being in it for the long run. And so I'm looking to episode 100. I'm looking forward to episode 200. That may be a bit further down the road, but 100 is just 30 or so episodes away. And who knows what celebration I'll have when that day comes. But I appreciate those of you that listen, those that have come and said, hello, thank you for your podcast. Well, I thank you for listening and taking the time to hear these words from the men, the women, the youth of our annual conference as they try to live out their lives as faithful servants of Jesus Christ. God bless. Have a great day, and join us again next Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. for our regular Wednesday podcast. This is Pastor Goodman. Thanks for listening to this edition of the Wesleyan Connection. Be sure to check back often for more podcasts.